Alright, I am back with another Destiny 2 video. I was out to dinner and then I came out, checked my phone, and saw that there was a very short TWAB, so I thought maybe there was going to be nothing to actually kind of cover for this, and yet we have done the impossible. We have complained enough about the Synthstrand Transmog grind where Bungie has outright killed it. The major item of the TWAB this week is that Synthstrand is going away as a currency entirely. I thought maybe they would increase the rate of it or something like that, because it is something like 5 hours of combat for 150 Synthstrand to buy one bounty for Transmog, so that was 25 hours of per set of armor, and then 2 of those per season to hit the cap. That was terrible. So they completely eliminated that. Synthstrand does not exist in the game at all anymore. It has been replaced by, you can buy Transmog bounties just for 10,000 Glimmer, which even though if across 3 characters, that'll be 300,000 Glimmer, which is more than the cap. Who cares? I don't care. It is more than easy to get enough Glimmer for that, either buying it through Spider or just playing naturally. This is not even remotely close to the level of effort it would take to do the Synthstrand grind before that. And now it's going to be pretty easy to get 10 bounties on any character you want over the course of a season. This is a great change. I have to give credit where it's due. I figured they might just bump the rate, but even, taking it down from 5 hours of pure combat grinding to 2 hours of pure combat grinding, is that better? I still feel like that's not a very good system, because the whole point of the Transmog bounty system should just be doing the bounties. This idea that you just had to kind of just do anything in the game to grind out Synthstrand was not really ever something that really resonated with me. I didn't understand why they were doing that, so I am glad to see them eliminate that entirely. The bounties themselves, I think, are fine for the most part. The objectives, at worst, it's usually like 4 strikes or 3 nightfalls or 8 Crucible games or something like that. I think the only ones that were kind of weird were the world quests, where it's like 10 Altars of Sorrow runs or something like that, or a million Blind Wells. I guess those are a little more relevant now with the loot that is still dropping, but who's that? Evie, are you here to talk about Transmog? Did you hear the news? Oh my gosh. Wife cameo. Michelle, did you hear about Transmog?
Nope.
There's no more Synthstrand.
I don't know what that means. Evie, quit.
Okay. I'm keeping this in. I'm keeping it in. Okay. So besides that, we're not fully out of the woods yet, and when it comes to Transmog, because the obvious issue this runs into now is the cap, and the cap is that you only have 10 per season, and this is kind of the issue to begin with, where we really didn't think that the length of the grind was going to be the problem. It was always that you were capped to 10 pieces of Transmog gear a season. It was different this season because they gave us so many freebies. They gave us 11 free Transmogs per character. There are no indications that they are going to extend that. Originally they only said they were going to be doing that for this first initial season, so it seems like as we transition into next season, it's just going to be the same thing as it's going to be going forward, where it's just 10 slots per season. And even though it's a very good idea to put maybe some of those templates in the season pass, it does not seem like they're going to be doing that. The fact is, someone is buying Transmog. People are buying Transmog in the store, and that is a new revenue source for Bungie. I maintain that having a monetized Transmog system at this level with this cap in place is not great. And yet, obviously, this is some level of progress past where we were initially. The grind of 25, 50 hours for a single cap hit on a given character was way too crazy. And so coming down from that to just be 10,000 Glimmer per, that's fine. I think that is a much more reasonable level, but now we run into the problem that we were kind of dealing with initially, which is the cap in the first place. This does show that they're kind of willing to work within the framework of what they've set up, and alter it if they need to. We will see, this was always kind of a wait and see thing. Like, this was the first season of Transmog. They wanted to see how it would go, and obviously they have a bunch of data showing how many people hit the cap, how many people are missing it. I am currently on track to miss it by a pretty wide margin. Last I checked, I was at 15 out of 30 total. So, like, if you're running one character, getting to 10, if you're playing a decent amount, is like, okay, but multiple characters, forget about it. You got to be really grinding like crazy. And what I ran into at about 15, 16, 17 out of 30 is that you just run out of Synthstrand. Like, the bounties were fine. Four strikes, crucible matches, whatever, those were easy to complete. That was something I didn't mind doing because it was such a dedicated reward. But getting 150 Synthstrand means you have to kill just like anything to get it. That is not very efficient to farm in Crucible, not very efficient to farm in Gambit. So it's pretty much like strikes and patrol and lost sectors and blind well and altars and things like that, where you're kind of just always killing enemies because as we discovered earlier in the season, there was a time cap on how much Synthstrand could drop in a given period of time. So it didn't matter if you killed 200 enemies in 2 minutes, or if you killed like 10 enemies in 2 minutes. There was essentially a time gate. So that's how we came up with these figures for, 5 hours per piece of gear. There's always going to be this kind of contentious rift between those who want just like a normal transmog system like any other game has. Most other games do not monetize transmog at all. And if there is some sort of grind for transmog or cost, it's like an in-game cost that does not really matter all that much and is not that important. Bungie is kind of unique in trying to monetize transmog as much as they have. The cap, I think, is still a problem. I mean, Bungie is usually introducing at least 2 armor sets per season if you average them out, because expansions will have more. So you are essentially never going to catch up with all the armor that is available, given all the past sets that we still have to transmog. Again, I guess you can just pick your favorites, but it really forces you into these like weird decisions of like what you should actually commit to and what shouldn't you. Whereas in like Diablo, you're like, oh yeah, I got that. Click, 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 like transmog, done. That I think is still kind of a better system, but at least we're on the track to improvement. At least they are making changes to make it less of a grind. I don't think I'm going to, kill myself trying to get the last 15 or so transmog bounties, even though like I'm losing those. It sucks because if I don't hit those, like I've lost my free shot at 15 more pieces of gear I could have transmogged, and yet like the Synthstrand grind is that awful where I don't even care. So next season it will be very easy, I think, to hit the cap of 30 across 3 characters, but then we are going to have the debate about whether the cap is too low, whether they should be offering free transmog in the battle pass, things like that. I guess it's not out of the realm of possibility that maybe they've discovered that transmog would be a good thing to put in the battle pass, but if they were doing that, I feel like that's something they probably would have mentioned in this section, because this, if they were ever going to mention it in a specific, TWAB or something, it seems like transmog changes for next season should be the place to do that. So I'm not expecting that. I think we're just going to have the cap of 10 per season, or 10 per character like they originally said, and then they're going to see how that goes, see if people are, I guess, complaining enough about it. I think most people kind of forgot about the transmog issues. I feel like I'm one of the only people who are still kind of complaining about it by the end of the season, but I know my fellow fashionistas have just not really loved the system so far, and Synthstrand has been a main culprit of that. So I'm glad to see it change, and I think this is a good decision that they made relatively quickly into the lifespan of it. And it's just, as they say in the TWAB, it's one less currency. I mean, there's way too many freaking currencies in the game, and they were getting made fun of for like the 3 levels of synth currencies, and now technically I guess there's only 2 of them. So, it's one less slot that takes up room. It's, one less thing to grind for. So I think that's a good change for that reason as well. So this is a victory. I don't think transmog is completely solved or completely where it needs to be, but this is definitely a step in the right direction, and this is a much better move than simply upgrading the transmog drop, or the Synthstrand drop rates would have been. I don't think that that's like an obvious interim solution, but I'm glad they went all the way to kind of just eliminating it from the economy altogether. So we'll see what happens next season. It'll be easy to hit the cap, and then we will see how bad it feels to hit the cap relatively quickly into the season. So I'm done farming for Transmog for now. I guess I'll lose those freebies, but we'll just see how next season goes and future changes they might make. So thanks for watching. Evie, are you sleeping? Evie's sleeping. Okay. Yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. And yeah, it's nice to have something to talk about with Destiny. It's been a little. I've taken 2 whole days off of writing and filming videos of Destiny, so it's good to have at least something to report, and I guess a victory for us Transmog people. So, all right, we'll see you guys. Take care.